inspiring next. Action 1, inspiring next.
Look up because you never know what you will see. Hi, my name is Shen Ge, and I'm the host of SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show here in Houston, with Action 1 Media Group support every Thursday night. So, my goal here is to educate the public in terms of space science, space flight, physics, astronomy, etc. You know, all that cool jazz, and occasionally about aliens as well. So STEAM education, science, technology, engineering, arts, since that's part of the creative aspect, and mathematics is very important to me, and I feel like Action 1 Media's goal is aligned with mine. So together we hope to encourage the knowledge and especially the passion and interest in outer space in our Houston community. Tune in to SG2 on Space on Thursdays at 8 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Look up because you never know what you will see.
All right, and we are here once again. As always, this is your host, Shen Ge. SG2 on Space is what you're listening to right now, the only weekly space show, I would love to say, on this planet, but that's just not true. So I'll stick it with in Houston. So every Thursday, 8 to 9 p.m. Central Time. So in any case, today's theme is space. Because we have a bunch of topics which I'm not sure how they're all related. I know we've been talking about the moon a lot, kind of figure out how to spread out more than that. But anyways, before we get to that, let me just say thank you, Action 1 Media. So find Action Media, weareA1.com. Please follow me at www.facebook.com/The Shen Show, TheShenShow. That's right. And of course, on YouTube, you can do a search for SG2 on Space. And there'll be a number of links there. Not all my episodes are here because prior to YouTube, we did it on Facebook. So, but if you go to facebook.com/The Shen Show, you should be able to find it. All right. So with that, why don't we get started? So I figure we'll start by, as always, some special announcements on some things of interest that doesn't really fit anywhere else. So first of all, well, let's see here. NASA contractors have agreed that for the lunar program to work, to succeed in landing humans on the moon by 2024, will require additional $20 billion to $30 billion for the agency. All right. So the spending will have to take place over the next 5 years, according to NASA Administrator Jim Bernstein, on top of existing NASA budget projections. All right. So that's going to be a huge amount, relatively speaking. So this was on June 20th. There was a panel discussion by the Space Transportation Association. There were a number of executives with a bunch of NASA contractor companies on basically discussing the overall cost estimate for the Artemis program, which the Artemis program is, think of it as a sister to the Apollo program, right? Which is what we're trying to do. So a recent study by the Planetary Society, so independent of all this, Planetary Society, as I told you a bunch of times, was founded by Carl Sagan, currently headed by Bill Nye, and recently launched the Light Sail, if you recall from the last episode. But anyways, a recent study published by them looked at the historical cost of the Apollo mission, and they estimate that that the lunar module developed for the Apollo, if you project it today, would cost about $23.4 billion in 2019 dollars. So what this means, the Artemis program isn't going to be much cheaper than that. Okay, so definitely somewhere between $20 to $30 billion is what we need to actually develop a human-rated lunar module to land humans to the moon and come back. So far, NASA has requested only $1.6 billion in additional funding for Artemis for the next fiscal year. So of that, $1 billion was set aside for lunar lander work, and the rest is going to Space Launch System, which, if it's ever built, will be the largest rocket ever. So the rest of the $0.6 billion going to SOS, space technology, and science missions. So, and that cut several $100 million from the Gateway program. Gateway is the Lunar Space Station, right? Which essentially has been downsized to minimal. So, which means I think just 3 modules. So basically, we're focused on getting there. We're not so focused on, on the size of the station that's going around the moon, right? So, in any case, hopefully NASA gets some money. If not, I'm not sure if that could be done within the 2024 time frame. This is not quite the same as the moon race back in the 60s. Not quite, but I think we'll see what happens, right? So if you got ambitious goals, you got to follow up with money. So speaking of money, well, let's see. Okay, let's stick with NASA for now. NASA actually, it's good that that NASA is doing more private incentives, let's just say. So besides these big name contractors, NASA also has some innovation programs. So one of them that I've went to before is called the NASA iTech. Okay, so there was one here in Houston, right? Well, it turns out there's another NASA iTech, since they have a NASA iTech every single year, which is good. So what is NASA iTech? NASA iTech is an initiative within the agency's Space Technology Mission Directorate, STMD. And what it does is it encourages innovative ideas that could provide unique solutions on Earth and in space. So you have to serve both the terrestrial market as well as the space market, ideally. So, so Kara Blackwell, NASA iTech program executive, has said NASA iTech is all about, I'm quoting her, is all about fostering innovative ideas from entrepreneurs who otherwise may not have contemplated a space application for their technology. Okay, so I'm bringing this up now because the NASA iTech Cycle 1 forum, where they have 10 finalists, so they already gone through the semifinalist stage. Semifinalists had 25 semifinalists. They narrowed down to 10. So that Cycle 1 forum is coming up. It's on July 10th and July 11th, 2019. And it's going to be the whole day from 9 in the morning until 6 p.m., all right? And it's located at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California. So if you guys want to take a trip there or you're already there, great, right? I'm not sure if I could do it, although that would be amazing. It's at 1401 North Shoreline Boulevard, Mountain View, California 94043. And you can go on Eventbrite and find it. All right. So it's the NASA iTech 2019 Cycle 1 Forum. So anyways, so for this year, NASA has out solutions in the areas of artificial intelligence, autonomous robotic capabilities, intelligent machines, force and tactile sensors, augmented and virtual reality, flexible materials, and what's known as X-Factor innovations. Just to let you know, a while back, I actually submitted one, like I think a year or two ago. Okay, didn't get in. All right, personal note aside, X-Factor, that's one I submitted. That's basically anything that's not covered, okay? So, in any case, the 10 finalists, I would just briefly go over them here. So, in alphabetical order, it is Eris MD. Eris MD uses a patent-pending augmented and virtual reality system to bring medicine into the 21st century. Okay, clearly, we're already in the 21st century. So, anyway, point is, they're using imaging with immersive reality, okay? And that provides greater visibility and accuracy for surgeons. So, essentially, virtual and augmented reality for surgery, all right? So that's Eris MD. Then there's Baker Street Scientific. So they are a data science company. They process vast amounts of data, and essentially they project the future, right? So they through analyzing all that data, they can predict likelihood, anomalies, convergence, divergence, influencers, and missing data. So you can purchase their data, you can purchase their data results, right? So it's useful for pretty much anything. So pretty amazing. Then there's Cluster Imaging Incorporated, which they generate basically three-dimensional images with cameras. All right, so accurate depth maps using multi-resolution camera clusters. All right, then there's Creal 3D, Creal 3D, which once again is another virtual reality company. They mix virtual and mixed reality use headsets and smart glasses to create hologram-like images. Pretty cool, huh? So then there seems to be ones that are, you know, not so flashy, I would think. There's EnduroLock LLC, which makes metal fasteners that are vibration resistant, reversible, and reusable. Okay. All right. Quickly going through this before we go on break. GoRoute, which is a wearable helmet display system to show football play diagrams. Yes. I wonder how you can use that in space, but I don't know why. But they got selected, so who knows? It might be useful. All right, Lumia Technologies, which designs light and flexible space structures. Momentus Incorporated, which I thought was really cool, which is developing thrusters that use water as a fuel to move satellites between different orbits. There's two more. Oxford Space Systems, which is the only UK company on the list. And one of their big things is making deployable antennas, which are lighter and more scalable. And then lastly, Wiser Systems, and they basically develop technology which can autonomously locate and track assets in different environments without, you having Wi-Fi or GPS, okay? Which is pretty cool. All right, so those are the 10 companies. Hopefully, like 3 of them are going to be chosen, right? And I'm not sure if there's going to be a monetary award last time. I recall last time it wasn't exactly monetary, but they did get a lot of attention, and I think they got a bunch of like Google credits and things like that. So, in any case, let's pause here for a short break. When we come back, let's talk about some stuff about China for a bit, and then science, and then more space entrepreneurship. So, take a quick break.
Some of the other things you got going on.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. I feel like I'm in the presence of like celebrity. Y'all real fans to me.
It's just the shades, man. Shades.
So I think like 2000.
Put Put your money where your community is. Get in the action. Action 1. Independent thinkers working together. Inspiring action in media. Get in the action. Inspire today. Join us by being a sponsor at weareA1.com.
Growing up as a black kid in New Jersey, all I ever wanted to do was be a pro athlete. All of my role models were black athletes. And every time I would stare out the window and look at the sky and wonder what I'd be in the future, it always had to do with me catching some crazy football and scoring a touchdown. When it came to the point that I was told that I would not be able to play on an organized sports team for the rest of my life, it was something that I really didn't even know how to stomach in the moment. And I remember walking out of my cardiologist's office and just sitting in the hallway and breaking down for a few minutes just because it was something that I just couldn't plan for and couldn't account for. And I realized that in that moment, my entire life was going to be changed. And all of those dreams and hopes and aspirations that I had were going to go out of the window.
I am so back. This is Shen, your host for SG2 on Space. Look up because you never know what you'll see, right? So right now, hopefully you're looking up at your TV or your cell phone or your computer screen or your tablet and watching this show. I understand there's some kind of debate going on right now, but you can ignore that and just watch the show instead. SG2 on Space is always more interesting. So that comment aside. That comment aside, now if you're not watching this live, great, you know. Anyways, so before we went on break, I was talking about the NASA iTech 2019 Cycle 1 Forum that is happening very, very soon, July 10th through 11th. Some very interesting entrepreneur companies that is pretty much hopefully going to revolutionize the world, right? Very interesting technology. I will not go over them again for the sake of time. Instead, let me tell you about something else that's happening. Briefly mentioned that 3 astronauts, or rather 2 astronauts and a cosmonaut, returned safely to Earth after 204 days in space. So good job. Good job, NASA and Russia for doing that. So those were Oleg Konechko with Roscosmos, Anne McClain of NASA, and Canadian Space Agency astronaut David St. Jacques landed Soyuz MS-11 spacecraft on Monday, June 24th. So all of them were safe and sound. Okay, so that's great. Other thing, China has launched the latest Beidou satellites. So Beidou, saying it completely American accent, but Beidou satellites is China's version of the global positioning system, right? GPS. So essentially, you know, it's their navigation satellite system, and currently, well, not yet, but the completed system will comprise of 27 satellites in medium Earth orbit and 5 in geostationary orbit and 3 in inclined geo orbit. So 3 plus 5 plus 27 is what? 35. So in total there'll be 35 satellites, right? So the orbits of the latter are designed to form 2 figure-8 loops in order to cover China, optimal coverage of China and other countries in the Asia Pacific, right? So this is the 21st satellite to be rolled out. So how many is there more to go? 14, right? So hopefully that happens soon. This forms what's the third phase of the construction, which expands local coverage of China, or you know, Asia around China, to global coverage, right? So these new satellites also have inter-satellite link capabilities, which means the satellites can directly talk to each other. They have new generation rubidium atomic clocks and passive hydrogen maser clocks. Sounds fancy. Okay, so yes, these could be used for all sorts of civilian purposes, such as transportation, fishing, power, forestry, disaster reduction, smart cities, social governance, course, it could also be used for the military, right? Just like our GPS can. So, which for China is a huge deal because Chinese military right now, it removes their usage. It removes their need to use GPS, which is owned by Americans Air Force. All right, so we shall see what happens. Okay, well, let's see. Might as well go into science, right? But first, I like to mention that I thought this was a fun fact. There's going to be cookies baked on the space station soon. So, totally doesn't change the world in any way, but who doesn't want cookies up in space? I mean, what do these astronauts eat anyway? I'm sure right now they don't eat cookies. They should. So, there's going to be an oven going up, which you can literally bake cookies. And it will suck if all you can do is smell them, not eat them. So hopefully we'll let them eat them. So, but anyways, that's going up in November 20. Is it 2018? 2019, I think. I don't know. Whatever. So, all right. Next up, there was an interesting competition recently about the most efficient way to explore the Milky Way galaxy. And it was the 10th annual Global Trajectory Optimization Competition, which sounds super fancy. But essentially what they wanted to do, to layman's terms, is to create a simulation that showed how humanity could optimally colonize the Milky Way. So basically cover the most star systems in the Milky Way in the least amount of time, which is awesome because eventually we're going to do that, right? Unless there's aliens, which there are. But anyways, that aside, you kind of want to spread out in the optimal way, You don't want to spend like 1,000,000 years to cover one tiny area of the Milky Way. That's not, So basically, this was a competition. So the competition's theme, by the way, is cool. It's called Settlers of the Galaxy, right? So, different teams from like international teams competed to find the most energy efficient way of settling as many star systems as possible. So this actually ran for quite a while, from May 21st to June 12th, 2019. It was actually hosted by NASA Jet Propulsion Lab's Mission Design and Navigation section. So, just to give you a quick paragraph synopsis, the competition was stated like this. And in about 10,000 years from the present, humanity will reset its counting of years to 0. Year 0 will be the year when humanity decides the time is right for the human race to boldly venture into the galaxy and settle other star systems. 100,000 star systems in the galaxy have been identified as being suitable for settlement. Even in this year 0, although technologies and knowledge have dramatically progressed, we are still subject to the tyranny of inertia and remain far from the near instantaneous space travel depicted fancifully in science fiction. All right, so there's a bunch of words. What does it mean? There's basically try to settle as many of the 100,000 star system as possible. All right, and that's it, basically. All right. So what do we see here? Let's see it. Is human generation ships leaving the solar system, which is denoted as yellow. So yellow are those human generation, multi-generation ships, okay? And they're traveling from one end of the Milky Way galaxy to the other. So the blue and green streaks, they represent the initial expansion outwards, okay? Which are then followed by red streaks that designate missions sent from other star systems. So the secondary missions, so to say. All right. So you will notice that obviously there's more and more red because those are sent by star systems that have already been colonized by the initial Earth settlers, right? So pretty amazing. All right. And look how far they're going from the initial yellow. That's yellow. Remember, is our solar system. All right. So by the end of it, what happened? The Perseus and Carinus Sagittarius arms of the Milky Way galaxy are pretty much teeming with human settlements. And on the other side of the galaxy, a lot of the Scutus Centaurus arms. By the way, I don't expect people to have to ever taking a class called Geography of our Milky Way galaxy, so these names may be completely unfamiliar. But suffice to say, these two arms are on opposite sides of the galaxy. And isn't that amazing? You like direct two different paths of the settlers, right? One on this side of the galaxy, the other on the other side, and you can pretty much settle both sides within this time frame. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, so it looks like fireworks. That's cool. So the I can look at this for a while, but let's not. All right. So moving on here, let's talk about something called extraterrestrial life. Why not? We're talking about this stuff right now, how we settle other planets and things. Well, when we go to these worlds, right, there's a chance that there's already, life there. Doesn't have to be intelligent. So how do you identify these 100,000 star systems, that could potentially harbor life to start with, right? That could be habitable. Since ideally you go to systems which you don't have to terraform, right? So it turns out there's this weird toxic gas called phosphine that could be a signature of life on other worlds. So phosphine, which I wonder where you can get them. Maybe I'll look on eBay or Amazon. All right, you guys can do as well. But anyways, it's terrible. It smells like it's horrible smelling. All right, and oh yeah, you probably can't buy it because it's toxic to life on Earth. Never mind. Ignore what I just said. All right. So phosphine, it's a horrible smelling gas. It's toxic to life on Earth. But why? I mean, somehow it could signify the existence of alien life forms elsewhere. Why is that? Well, it turns out that phosphine is not it's only that due to our oxygen. Okay, so traces of this gas you can still find it in sewage, marshlands, and apparently the intestinal tracts of fish and human babies. I don't know about adults. All right, you can also find it in the feces of penguins. All right, so all these sounds really gross. All right, so I mean, what do they have all in common? They have no oxygen. All right, so phosphine reacts with when exposed to oxygen, and then it interferes with the cell's ability to use oxygen. Right, so that's why it's toxic to you, since we need oxygen. Right. In fact, just trivia fact, it was used as a chemical weapon in World War One, since you wouldn't be able to breathe, right? So, however, in places where there's no oxygen, phosphine, it's not like it will kill you, because, so it won't. So this team from MIT, Clara Sosa Silva, Molecular Astrophysics Associate, which sounds like a pretty cool title, she molecular astrophysicist. All right. She and her team wanted to see how plausible it would be to detect phosphine on exoplanets, which is planets in other solar systems, right? So they simulated phosphine production, survival, and destruction on a bunch of these various exoplanets and found out that under some conditions, they could detect the presence of phosphine by measuring how it interacts with light. All right. So, and what's more interesting is that they found that phosphine wouldn't give any false positives. So false positives is when you think you detected life, but you didn't. For instance, we seem to get that a lot on Mars. In fact, recently it happened again. Like we detected, I think it was Curiosity, detected methane, a sudden upsurge in methane on some vent, all right, some ground. And some scientists and some other folks say, oh, this is a clear sign of life. But then it could be geological reasons, right? Structures. So you can't tell. So it could be geological or it could be biological, right? With phosphine, the only way that's produced is biological, all right? So essentially, if we somehow detect phosphine on an exoplanet, we know 100% that it is life. Now, it's life that doesn't use oxygen, but it's still life. So that is really interesting, all right? So maybe that's something else we need to search for. Okay. On another note, I'd just like to add that recently, well, not recently, but actually, yes, today, we're supposed to say, if you're listening to this live, today, June 27th, the asteroid 2008 KV2, it is about to zip by Earth, all right? Or it is zipping by Earth, let's just say. So, you know, it's about a distance of 4.2 million miles away, which sounds really far, but it's really not that far. You know, to give you an idea, the moon is about 238,900 miles away. So let me see, how much is that? So 20 times further away than no, 17 times further than the moon. All right, so this asteroid wasn't detected until 2008, though, and so it is a very frequent visitor. So it's a near-Earth asteroid. So after this trip, it's a 2008 KV2. It's going to pass by Earth again in 2021 and twice in 2022. All right. So why does NASA care about this asteroid? Well, it's 1,082 feet across, which is 330 meters. And if it hits Earth, it will probably destroy like a continent, right? Which will not be cool. So NASA, JPL in particular, tracks these near-Earth objects, NEOs, okay, that venture into the zone between 91,121,000,000 miles from the sun. So essentially areas which you know, can intersect with the Earth orbit, right? So if it can pass within about 30 million miles of Earth orbit, then it's tracked. So this is clearly within 30 million miles. It is, as noted, 4.2 million miles this time, and it could get closer, right? So heck, you know, this time it's not going to hit us, but good job, NASA. Keep tracking these asteroids. Hopefully that's not going to be the reason we all die. But hey, you never know. So, like I said, this one wasn't discovered until 2008, right? So there's a lot that's still not discovered. Just I thought this was interesting. Not 2000. June 30th is United Nation has a United Nation Asteroid Day. That's weird. Well, not that weird. That's cool. So I don't know what you would do on June 30th, but somehow go celebrate rocks, I guess, or space rocks. Maybe go. Yeah, I don't know. Go to a space museum. Hang out with some asteroids there. All right. So moving on here, why don't we talk about what some cool companies are doing, right? Specifically, I want to talk about Blue Origin, actually. So Blue Origin is, you know, the side hobby, or I shouldn't say hobby because Jeff Bezos is dedicating a lot to it. He's the founder of Amazon, richest man in the world. All right, so there's plenty of money thrown at it, right? So it has recently performed the first hot fire test of the engine it plans to use on its Blue Moon lunar lander. And as you can see, the test firing is pretty amazing. All right. So company founder Jeff Bezos actually tweeted on June 19th that, you know, tweeted the test, right? And it took place in NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center, which has been known historically as a place to develop rockets, right? So it was a 35-second test, and Jeff Bezos said that the hardware is in perfect condition and data looks great. All right. So the original BE-7 engine was first mentioned on May 9th when Bezos, you know, unveiled the gigantic Blue Moon lander and, you know, did a show and tell. All right. So just as a recap, this lunar lander will be able to carry 3.6 metric tons of cargo to the lunar surface. It will also have a stretch tank version, so that can carry even more cargo, capacity up to 6.5 metric tons. That larger version of the lander, it would also could also carry an ascent stage to allow crewed missions to the lunar surface versus just a one-way, right? So so this B7 engine that you can see firing, it is capable of producing 10,000 pound force of thrust, and it's throttable, which means you can adjust how much force there is. Okay, so most liquid engines you can do that. So it uses liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen, which is still known as the most efficient type of engine, right? That's what the space shuttle used: liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen. And this is going to leverage the company's existing experience with the BE3 engine, which has been used on its New Shepard suborbital vehicle, as well as upper stage of its New Glenn orbital rocket. So BE7 engine, upgraded version of BE3, but pretty much using, think of similar design. So yeah, so I said liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen propellants were used because it's highly efficient. It's the most efficient most efficient chemical engine we know. Fuel oxidizer combination. The other reason is because, as Bezos noted, we want to go to the lunar poles, specifically the South Pole. Why? Because there's water ice. And what is water/ice made of? What chemicals? H2O. Yes. That is hydrogen and oxygen, right? So if you can break it apart, you can recombine it and basically, boom, right? So yes, water decomposes hydrogen and oxygen, recombine it, combusts. All right, so that's it's more involved than that, but that's the idea, right? So basically, instead of carrying all your fuel, you can get fuel from the lunar poles, right? And that's great because you land on the moon, you want to be able to get off the moon, right? So you don't have to carry all your fuel to land on the moon. You can land on the moon with a limited amount of fuel, generate your fuel there, and then basically refuel your lander, and then go back to the space station. All right. So Blue Origin has already been working on this for 3 years to develop this engine. It is also one of the 11 that received contracts from NASA on May 16th for studies on initial prototype development of lunar lander descent stages transfer vehicles. So they're privately funded, and they also got some NASA government money. So that's great. And then later this year, they're basically they're submitting another proposal. So NASA is giving out another RFQ, I guess, request for basically proposals later this year for work on integrated lunar lander system. So it's cool. All right. Hey, let's see it. All right, so, yep, that doesn't seem that terribly exciting until you realize that it is pretty exciting, actually, and that was the first hot test of an engine that will power, that will power a the Blue Moon lunar lander. That's amazing, right? It's gonna be on the moon. All right, so, okay, yeah. In any case, for you guys who don't have deep pockets, I was just thinking I might as well throw this out there. You might as well actually try for, asking people for money. A website that I found recently that might be useful for startup companies, space startup companies, called spaceangels.com. So go check that out. All right. So, or if you're an investor and you're interested in funding new space startup companies. Obviously not Blue Origin, since Jeff Bezos doesn't need your money, but some other ones. All right. So just a quick note, since we're still on the space entrepreneurship portion of our show, on here they actually have quite a lot of some companies that have already been funded, right? So The thing about these companies is this is like a angel network, so it's not one venture capital firm, right? So angels are basically relatively wealthy people who's willing to put some money in there and get a percentage of the company and certain things like that, right? So currently they have a few companies such as Axion Systems, which is developing ion beam propulsion technologies for satellites, which is kind of cool. Analytical Space, which is developing satellite data relay services. Astrobotic Technology, which I found that a little surprising. I didn't realize that. So they are one of the first. They're, remember, one of the 3 companies that were recently awarded the NASA contract to develop a unmanned lunar lander. All right, it just needs to land. So, but prior to that, apparently they got some angels to fund them. All right, through spaceangels.com. So Astrobotics Technology, Atlas Space Operations, so radio frequency satellite ground stations. Because Learning, I thought this was cool. It's an interactive STEM platform, science, technology, engineering, math platform, that allows schools to run experiments from Earth to space through the Spire. Spire is a satellite company, through the Spire satellite network, which is kind of cool. Then there's BridgeSat, there's Hawkeye 360, GHGSat. They are small satellite company that monitors greenhouse gas emissions. There's Hawkeye 360, who I've talked to personally, and they are a small satellite company that plans to use their data to, they can detect radio frequencies, and it will help monitor transportation, whether it's air, land, or space, right? To minimize your transportation, avoid certain regions, or, basically identify the best route, save you a bunch of money, right, if you're a transportation company. All right, ICI, which is another small satellite company that I talked to, and it allows satellite imagery, and it uses what's known as synthetic aperture radar, which lets you see like past clouds and all kinds of weather, which is kind of cool. And then they're the first of their kind doing that for real-time access. There's Isotropic Systems, which kind of is, I don't know how exactly it's space-related, but it's smart terminals. Kepler Communication, once again, another small satellite company. Leo Labs, so I can go on more. Made in Space, which is really cool. They started out making 3D printers in space. They've broadened out. So space manufacturing. Okay, so there's a bunch of these, right? A lot of these seem to be like, small satellite companies, kind of communications companies. But there are a few rocket companies, which is cool. And some which are, last one I want to say, which I thought was cool, it's not mentioned much, Worldview Enterprises, okay? So that one is, instead of using rockets, they use high-altitude balloons to go up, lift payloads and people 20 miles above the Earth's surface. Really haven't heard much about them, but it's cool that they're being funded through this Space Angels network. So, all right. I think we need to take a break. So with that, let us take a break.
Get your money where your community is. Get in the action at weareA1.com.
Man, you still here? Go on and subscribe.
Get in action.
Yo, we back at it again, baby.
What?
Get in action.
3.
Get in the action.
Tell me what is the deal, tell me what is the deal.
So I challenge you today to start strong.
Get in the action.
Tell me what is the deal. Cause I'm calling for you.
Get in the action.
Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Can you feel that? Yeah. See, I'm calling for you. Say how you really
All right, you've been listening to SG2 on Space, the only weekly space show in Houston, Texas, with your host, Shenga. If you're listening to us on facebook.com/The Shen Show, or Action One Media at weareA1.com. All right, or YouTube, SG2 on Space. But enough of all this talk about like technology, humans, whatever, right? You know what? Humans are way behind like extraterrestrials, you know? So I don't know why I spend like 55 minutes or 50 minutes talking about what humans are doing when we could really just talk about what aliens are doing here already. Really? Come on. I mean, who cares about what Blue Origin's doing going to the moon when some alien species already traveled 1 million light years to our world, right? Okay, how do I know this? Because been around forever, and UFO sightings, all right? In fact, there's been a lot of them all the time, starting from back in the, well, starting way back when, but as far as our country goes, in terms of the military, starting at the dawn of the atomic age, all right? So you might think, okay, you know what, this can't be real, blah, blah, blah. But really, there's been a lot of sightings in very sensitive, very, very hidden military sites, all right? So, for instance, I will tell you this. In late 1948, there were, quote-unquote, green fireballs reported in the skies near the atomic laboratories in Los Alamos and Sandia, New Mexico, where the atomic bomb was first developed and tested. So, in a declassified FBI document from 1950 mentions flying saucers, quote-unquote, measuring about 50 feet in diameter near the Los Alamos labs, where the first nuclear bomb was developed. Okay? So, interviews with more than a dozen workers from the Nevada Desert Atomic Test Site. You know, that's where they tested the nukes initially. So they said that they've seen plenty of UFOs there. And it was so commonplace that employees were assigned to monitoring UFO activity. And they were not the Air Force. Nobody knows where they were. They were just flying there, observing us humans detonating gigantic nuclear bombs. All right. Probably, I don't know why. I guess I'm just hanging out. All right. So in the 1960s and 1970s, there were repeated UFO sightings at the Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, which is a storage site for nuclear-tipped intercontinental ballistic missiles, right? This was during the height of the Cold War. All right. So, and this is really weird. So at one such sighting in 1967, former Air Force Captain Robert Salas says that several of those intercontinental ballistic missiles became inoperative, so he couldn't fire. All right, it didn't work. At the same time that base security reported seeing a glowing red unidentified flying object about 30 feet in diameter hovering over the facility. So that is crazy. That's weird. Yeah, well, you know, that's what happens, right? Okay. Closer in late December 1980, air traffic controllers, this was in England now, near the Royal Air Force Bentwaters in England, basically encountered, so give a background. Bentwaters actually houses a quote-unquote secret stash, I guess it's no longer secret, during the Cold War it was, a secret stash of nuclear weapons in 25 fortified underground bunkers, all right? So Ivan Barker, who's a U.S. Air Force air traffic controller working that night, he basically he told History.com, we looked up on the radar scope and saw something not like anything I've ever seen before. So he's a master sergeant who was second in charge of the facility, and at that time he said he knew every aircraft in the U.S., NATO, and Soviet bloc, and this object was none of them. All right. So this object, on radar, it covered 120 miles in a matter of seconds. So it had to be moving at Mach 5, at least Mach 5. So it's faster than anything other than possibly a missile. It also hovered like a helicopter. Except with a helicopter, you still get movement up and down, right? This had no movement. This was stationary. So it was between about 1,500 and 2,000 feet high. And the thing was at least a city block in diameter. So a gigantic alien spacecraft was just hanging out at a secret military base or nuclear stash during the, 1980, middle of the Cold War when you could have blown it. I don't know. Anyways, so Barker said it was shaped like a giant basketball with portholes around the center, from which light was emanating outward. So it's like a spherical, I'm not even going to call it aircraft, spacecraft. All right? And he said, I was shocked. There was nothing aerodynamic about it. Basketballs don't fly. Well, come on. Don't be stupid. Sorry. Aliens, advanced technology, you don't need airflow, okay? You have these engines that does things. All right, somehow. I don't know how. We're going to figure this out. Maybe dark energy or something. I don't know. Manipulating gravity. Some of those technologies, somehow. We will figure it out eventually when we master gravity ourselves, right? The point is, once you master gravity, why do you need to care about aerodynamics? You don't. You could be anything. You could be me, and I could be flying. All right, no, probably not. But point is, you could be any shape, okay? It doesn't have to be like an airplane. The point is, this thing was gigantic. It was floating right above a military base, all right? It stopped over the water tower, and then reversed course, speeding back, and it was whoosh, it was gone. So Barker, at that point, the Air Force was not so open to hearing people talk about that stuff. So he did not report it, because apparently if you do, you get, fired and called crazy. All right, so dang. So what else happened? Well, there's something even crazier. So he told he at least told the deputy commander. So Charles Holt, then led a patrol to investigate this, and he saw a red light moving horizontally through the trees, which was like a laser-like beam, and it landed 10 to 15 feet away from him and the rest of his group. Then the beam source left and flied away. So that's just crazy, right? Okay, I could go on and on, but point is, it's hard to. How else do you account for that? So you really can't. So what do I think? I think these guys are pretty much making sure that we're not, going to destroy ourselves. So let's just say there's suddenly, I don't know. So World War III doesn't break out, let's just say. All right. World War II, by the way, just as a historical lesson, even before this, during World War II, pilots from each side saw unidentified flying objects. Now, at that point, they thought it was an enemy, somehow having a super advanced technology. They wouldn't tell it. But really, when the war concluded, realized, wait a minute, there was no way that the enemy, whether it was the Axis or the Allies, depending on which side you were on, had that technology. So what was it? UFOs, right? So they were observing us even when we were having that massive war. So isn't that interesting? All right. So just to let you guys know, another historical lesson. We actually had a, we may still have a program right now. Okay, we probably do, and it's been kept secret since when UFOs are being actively investigated, the government likes to keep a secret, right? Because that's what governments do. So, but you know about Project Blue Book since it was unclassified. So, Project Blue Book, historical lesson, back in the late 1950s to the 60s, late 60s, for about 20 years, the government had a secret funded study of unidentified flying objects to assess whether they pose a threat to national security, or whether we can adopt them and build better military aircrafts ourselves. All right. So Robert J. Friend, he recently died. He was actually one of the leads of the project from 1958 to 1963. So So another interesting thing about Robert J. Friend is that he was one of the last surviving Tuskegee Airmen. Tuskegee Airmen who clearly defied racism, and rose up the ranks, which is so cool, and fought in Europe and all that during World War II. Anyways, so he lived until 99, almost a century old, and he died this week. So, but point is, he was the head of Project Blue Book for those years, right? For 1958 and 1963. His personal view is that skepticism, which actually surprises me, since I thought he would agree that they're all aliens, but hey, maybe not. But after 20 years of that study, when the project ended in 1969, the same year that humans landed on the moon, is there a correlation there? Oh my gosh. Well, if you're a conspiracy theorist, there is. To me, I think it might just be coincidence. All right. So, within that 20 years, about 700 of the more than 12,000 sightings that were investigated are unexplained. So, let's see. 700 out of 12,000. What percentage is that? That's 7 out of 120. Can I do my math? That's like 5%. Okay, let's just say. Which is a lot, considering how many sightings there are. Okay, imagine that. No wonder. I mean, seriously. All right. So, point is, yeah, I mean, with that, let's just say 5% of our sightings we can't explain. That there's a huge amount of UFO activity. Okay, there's alien activity all over the place. What people need to do is actually just look up. All right. With that, we come to the end, right? As I always say, look up, because you never know what you will see. Okay, so SG2 on space here. If you have heard nothing else in this entire show, just realize you need to look up, because you never know what you'll see. So thanks, everybody, and thank you, Action One Media. So with that, I will end it.
Peace, brother Atum Ryan. You tuned in to Action One Network. Action 1, Inspiring Action.
Look up because you never know what you will see.